This clip and many others like it are from part 1 of the Ubi Petrus Eric Ibarra debate review, which can be found at the links in the video description.
Okay, so then Vatican I. Okay, you said that the burden is on me to find where the Pope alone, as an individual, isolated from everybody else, binds everybody in the church. The problem is we don't need that. I don't need that. I don't have that burden. And here's why. Vatican I itself is a ecumenical council. Yeah. It consisted of bishops voting, and it consisted of the Pope ratifying. So you don't have anything at Vatican I with the Pope acting in absolute isolation from anybody. And yet there isn't a soul on the earth who's going to doubt that at that council, the people believed in papal supremacy and papal infallibility. Nobody's going to go around with a scanner saying, yeah, but the Pope didn't say it by himself, so we can't really ascertain whether they believe that. So just by the fact of what they say about the Pope's prerogatives proves what they believed. In the same way, when we go into the early church, we don't need to find, like I said in my opening, a Pope always acting alone, or even doing an instance by himself where he judges a patriarch or issues an ex cathedra decree. We don't actually need that. It's not the burden on top of me. The burden on top of me is simply to show that they believed that power resides in the Apostolic See. Moving on, the Vatican I papacy exists in conciliar modes, or if the Pope decides to do something by himself. At the Council of Trent, for example, no historian I know denies that the papacy existed then in a papal supremacist form. Same goes for the Lateran councils, Lyon's 1274, Florence, Vatican II. And yet at these councils, you see collaboration, you see votes, you see common deliberation. And yet nobody's going to look at that and say, yeah, but the papacy's not there because we didn't see the Pope do it by himself. So in the same way, we just go into the first millennium, use the same grid. Yeah, the Pope's doing things in synods. He's doing things with ecumenical councils. He's doing things with a consensus paradigm. But that doesn't mean that the papacy, as we understand it, wasn't there. So I don't have that burden. Just like I don't have the burden to prove that the Pope did anything by himself at Vatican I. He did things with a vote. 500 and something bishops voted in favor of Pastor Eternus. Did those bishops believe in papal supremacy? Yes. Why? Well, we didn't see them allow the Pope to do it by himself, but they confessed that the Pope had those rights. So if we go to the early centuries and we see Pope Leo, Pope Hormisdas, all these popes saying that they have these rights, then that's enough to fulfill my burden in this debate.
There are 3 issues here. The statements made by Saints Leo, Gelasius, Hormisdas, etc. are generally not descriptive. They use terms like head, first, primate, keys, rock, but they don't typically explain what those mean. This is why it is easy to read Vatican I back into them. One can easily redefine what those terms mean later on, and then insist that those definitions that are modern are actually ancient. If we go back to the example of Philip the Legate at Ephesus I, we can see that despite the language of being the foundation of the church and the Prince of the Apostles, he's simply confirming the acts of the council. He's doing what a head does in a council. 2. Assuming we accept what Eric claims those terms mean, we see similar terminology used about other figures who are not popes. I've covered those in other videos, and I'm currently working on a florilegium called A Florilegium of Flowery Language. 3. While Pastor Eternus is a remarkably clear and precise delineation of the position of and power of the papacy, no such document exists for the first millennium. Eric is assuming that we have treatises and explications on papal power in the first millennium that are as clear as Trent is on sacraments, and that is not the case. In fact, while we have numerous and extremely detailed treatises on the Trinity, on Christology, on sacraments, on monastic life, commentaries on liturgy and on prayer. We have nothing on the papacy except random snippets, usually mentioned in passing, that we are then forced to decipher in light of canonical literature of the time. And this is why we need to turn towards history to see how this primacy was acted out as a means of understanding what was meant. When we do that, though, the picture is just not as flattering to Eric's position as if he goes with the minimalist position, and he shows signs of coming to that realization in his book, which I encourage everyone to read. Further, Eric is ignoring the fact that in 1854, Pius IX declared the Immaculate Conception ex cathedra, and the bishops not only didn't protest and didn't break communion with him, but they accepted it. That's the type of historical evidence I was looking for, and he doesn't give it, probably because he didn't know the Immaculate Conception was defined in 1854, which he later admits in the debate.